For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dlamini. Francoise Malby-Anthony discusses her book titled An Elephant in My Kitchen. So how did it happen that a city girl from France ended up running one of the biggest game reserves in South Africa?
It all happened 31 years ago when I met my late husband waiting for a taxi in London. And I didn't want to share my taxi with him, and I was a bit rude to him, but obviously I didn't stop him. Yeah. And 11 months later I moved to South Africa, and we lived in Durban first. And then we bought Thula Thula 20 years ago.
Can you briefly tell us what inspired you to write this book and who should be reading it?
What inspired me to write this book? I think a lot of people wanted to know what was happening after Lawrence passed away at 6.5 years ago. And it's true that there's been a lot happening and a lot of new adventures and new happenings and new babies. And so I think that a lot of people were curious to know. And I met Katia. I was introduced to Katia by my in-house photographer, Kim MacLeod. And we share the same passion for the same story. And then, so we decided to write a book together.
The sudden death of your husband, Lawrence, must have come as a shock to you. Tell us how you were able to keep the business running under those trying times.
Well, Lawrence passed away 6.5 years ago. Well, the thing, I was in charge of the business side of Thula Thula. He was in charge of the conservation, the animals, the roads, the game reserve. And I had no idea where to start. And I knew I was going to have a lot to learn, but I think it all happened when 2 weeks after Lawrence passed away, poachers came to shoot at my rhinos. But they didn't kill the rhino, but they shot at it. And that's when I realized that I was on my own now, and I had to start taking the responsibility of the protection of our wildlife. So that was six and something years ago, and then, you know, it's just getting up every day and doing what you have to do. You know, there was no way I was going to leave, going back to France. I mean,
because I believe some of the people at the reserve, they must have thought that maybe you were just going to go away, go
home.
A
lot of people thought I was going to go away because I'm French, because I'm a foreigner. But I mean, nobody understood that it's something that Lawrence and I, we created in 1998. You know, when you create something, you can't let it go. And the people and the animals, it was like my family, my children, you don't never leave that behind.
And your late husband, Lawrence, was dubbed an elephant whisperer and was also passionate about elephants and even animals in general. What was it like for you to adjust to this kind of business?
No, it was like arriving on a different planet. I've always lived in big cities, and so arriving in the middle of the bush in Zululand. When he told me that, anyway, I said okay. He said we got to go there and we got to work on a big conservation. I said okay, but I didn't have a clue what he was talking about. So it was a beginning of the adventure. Yeah. And as I say, you know, my first contact with wildlife is I didn't know anything about wildlife. I'd never seen an elephant in my life, or I'd seen some rhinos. But I did not understand the purpose of conservation, local community. For me, it was foreign language. I did not understand. So I had to learn all this. It was a big learning curve. You know what? You never stop learning. You carry on. And I've learned every day again. Thanks to my team as well, who was helping me a lot.
It was amazing to read how his animals could also sense the loss. Tell us, how was the relationship between him and the animals in your lodge?
Lawrence had such an amazing relationship with the elephants. He was like a part of the herd. He was one of them, and it's famous that elephants go and mourn their dead. And maybe they took Lawrence as one of them. And 2 days after he passed away in Johannesburg. And then we got the news on the Friday morning. And then the whole herd of elephants arrived on the 4th of March at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was like a solemn procession arriving, and they stood there for hours. It was quite spectacular. But what's even more amazing, that the following year, they came back.
Yeah, that was also amazing.
Same day, same time.
And you missed that one because you were in Durban.
That's right.
Yeah.
But then the following year, they came back as well.
Wow.
3 years in a row. You know, you got that coincidence. I think everybody's entitled to interpret animals' behavior
Yeah.
the way they want. Like anyone can communicate with animals the way they want. You don't have to say words, just you can just talk with the eyes. And everyone has got little dogs or cats. I'm sure
True.
you can communicate with them
Certain
a certain way. You talk to them, they answer back with their eyes. And with the animals, the same thing. And you know this. You could interpret the sadness of the elephants the first time they came, and after that they came back to pay respect. This is our interpretation.
Yeah.
They came back for him to see.
And you came to our country, South Africa, when apartheid was still part of the system. Were you shocked at first? Because I remember your helper Buhle was asking for hair utensils in the house,
Yes.
and then at the beach you also saw a white designated area.
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
It was in 1987, and for me it was totally unrealistic. I remember net blanke, and then and even I was so confused even with buses. I was waiting for the bus, and the bus didn't want me, and the shops, and it was strange times for me. It was very strange to see it in writing and to see officialized like this, and Bushley asking me to understand. She didn't understand what she was trying to tell me.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a culture shock for her as well,
True.
because I was the one preparing her lunch, and it was quite funny. But I mean, we stayed together for a long time. As after that, she came to work on my clothing business, because I started a clothing business. So.
Yeah. You were also like struggling to get into that school in Durban. Tell us about that, because they
Yes.
wouldn't accept you at first.
Yes, I do not understand why. Because she was telling me, no, that day is for, it was a fashion school, it was a fashion design school, and I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
And she told me, no, that day is for Indians. And the other day was for Zulu people. And it did where do I fit in, you know, kind of thing. Anyway, I found another school where the teacher was a very creative guy, an Indian guy, very creative. And that's where I learned how to sew and how to make clothing. And
You had doubts when your husband talked you into buying the Windy Ridge, which is now called Thula Thula. Are you happy that you supported him in the end?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, yes, absolutely. I would never go back and change my mind. I mean, it was an adventure. It was more than an adventure. It was a huge challenge. But Lawrence was a visionary. He had that amazing vision of a huge game reserve. Because we started very small, 1,500 hectares. And that was 20
Kept
years
on
ago.
growing.
And then we got so many problems with poaching and with staff and with the building. After that, it was very tough. It was an unbelievable challenge. But you know what? We've just celebrated our 20 years anniversary this year.
We know that your business is affected with the issue of rhino horn smuggling, which you describe as more valuable than gold in your book. Tell us how this has affected your business.
It's costing us an insane amount of money to keep our wildlife safe. Protection and anti-poaching, it's taking a lot of our energy
And money.
that we could be using in doing more creative things. It's part of every single game reserve challenges. Anti-poaching is our priority, protecting the wildlife. It's a never-ending war, unfortunately. And we've had some serious poaching incidents.
And tell us about that guy was it from Polokwane, Mr. Potgieter, who also came and tried to talk to you in that
Did you like that?
strange business.
Did you like that chat?
I did.
I don't think the foreigners will understand it. And I think in South Africa people will understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is what happens when it happened not long after Lawrence passed away. And I think they must have known I was on my own. I was a blonde and I didn't have a clue. And so let's give her some.
They knew you needed money, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They knew I needed money, and we all need money in conservation. You don't make money. See, we've got our two beautiful lodges, and unfortunately in conservation you don't make money. Everything goes back into conservation. And they know that. And they know as well that the community needs money. So it was in appearance a very good deal, but obviously you got to be very careful, you know.
Yes.
When things happen like that from the skies, when it's too good to be true. Yes.
I know. And I liked how you hired local people when you started the lodge back in 2000. It must have been a huge task, though, to make sure that they were going to cook well for your guests. And
yes, well, I spent about 2 years at the lodge at the beginning. I was dealing as well with the marketing, the reservation, on that. I was training staff. It was a very interesting process because I actually learned Zulu, but my Zulu was not good enough, and their English was a bit, still a little bit wobbly. They are amazing cook now. They do I don't get involved at all in the kitchen all the time, but they are amazing.
Yeah.
And you know, at the launch of the book in Durban, I brought my staff, my rangers, and my Bona, Cindy, and the one Tom. No, Winnie couldn't come because I had to choose Tom, because Tom is the one at the origin of an elephant in my kitchen, because she is the one who came to knock at my door, my window, 8 o'clock at night, and to tell me that there was a baby elephant lost in the garden, that the both of us, we pushed that baby into my lounge, kitchen, office, I mean, everything. And I mean, so that passion is contagious. You see, she works in the kitchen, she's got nothing to do with the wildlife. But you know, it shows that the whole team understand that we are all in it together. Exactly. Animals, like the rangers must make sure that the food is good, the chef must make sure that, you know, the animals, this is what we all share together, the same passion and vision for wildlife and nature conservation.
And I know sometimes your chefs won't be like shy of saying that, no, this meal is not like up to standard when you are trying to do something in the kitchen.
Yeah. No, I'm not allowed in the kitchen anymore.
And I believe you have ventured into running a rehabilitation.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, the orphanage, the rhino orphanage, closed last year due to that tragedy of rhino poaching. A few months later, we reopened. I believe in not giving up in life. You got a beautiful facility. You have to use it. There are a lot of animals in need of help and rescue to be rehabilitated into the wild afterwards. And so we reopened. We've got little antelopes. We've got a little meerkat. We've got little genet cats. And we've got all kind of animals. And then what we've opened as well, it's a Volunteers Academy, which is as well a community project. It's a wonderful concept because it's really a win-win situation. We get volunteers from all around the world who come and pay a certain amount of money to experience, to be educated and inspired. So those will pay, we take a maximum of 8. And 7 of them will pay, and 1 of them will come from the local community. Every 2 weeks, a new one, young man, young lady, to get a better understanding of the conservation efforts, so anti-poaching, that he goes back home and he spreads the message. And my rangers also go with the other volunteers from all around the world to the local community, the schools, and to talk about conservation.
That's good.
And then we get children to come into game drives at Thula Thula to show them the elephants, the rhinos. So it's a wonderful concept because it helps everyone, and then all the funds paid by the volunteers go back straight into conservation. Whether it's rehabilitation center, expansion for the elephants, or anti-poaching, rhino protection.
And we spoke as well about being always in need of funds. And tell us about the time when one of your guests, your regular guests, was celebrating a 50th, and then they gave you this money that you really needed at the time. Yeah,
that was not long ago after Lawrence passed away, when I felt very lonely, and I felt, you know, the times were very hard. And we had the incidents, a poaching incident with Tabo, and those guests came from Denmark. They're regular guests, they're a wonderful family, and she chose Thula Thula to celebrate her 50th birthday, and instead of her receiving a present, the present came to Thula Thula for the protection of our rhinos. And please, while we're wrapping up this interview, can you also tell us more about what people will get when they read the book? I think they'll have a sense of it's going to be a bit of an emotional roller coaster. A lot of people tell me you need tissues handy when you read the book. Above all, when you reach the end, you have, it's quite emotional. But it's a very positive ending with the philosophy of never stop learning. Everything is possible if you really want to achieve something, if you work for a good cause, and it makes it worth all the adversity you're going to encounter, and above all, never give up.
That was Françoise speaking to Polity about her book titled An Elephant in My Kitchen.